Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I am your host, Samuel. And today we have with us another special guest. He goes by the name of Eric Anderson. He's the founder of Ortho Idea, a medical device media organization that provides exciting content in video, podcast, and print platforms. And he's also the co-founder of Medical Sales RX, an online platform dedicated to medical sales professionals. I'm honored to have him as a guest today because, like myself, he's someone that works within the medical sales space to provide value to medical sales professionals. We're going to get into some of his background, some of the things he's working on, and some of the things he's bringing out into the forefront. This is a bit of an older interview. We recorded this maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So there's been some development that's active now that's going to be really cool to hear. As always, we do our best to bring you innovative guests that bring value, resources, and innovation to the medical sales space. I really do hope you enjoy this interview. Hey, Eric, how are we doing today?
I am great, Samuel. How are you today?
I am fantastic. No complaints. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name's Eric Anderson. I am the founder of a couple different things, one being Extremity Surgical, OrthoLink Florida, Ortho Idea. You may have heard my Ortho Idea podcast if you're on the LinkedIn platform, and also one of the co-founders of Medical Sales RX. So I've got a couple of irons in the fire, to say the least.
You do. Is there a leading iron in this fire?
Yeah, so I am a medical device distributor, device broker. That's our main business. And I'm located in St. Augustine, Florida, and we are a distributor that focuses on the extremity space. And so we represent several independent companies in the extremity space.
So, that's actually a field thing I want to ask. We get a lot of listeners, and a lot of them want to get into the industry, and they don't understand the different components that make up the industry. Real short, just give us a little bit about what a distributorship actually is and how that compares to something like Stryker or Medtronic and working for a company like that.
Sure. So seeing I've done both, I can give you a pretty good idea what both looks like. So with the medical device distributor, we are independent contractors, and we represent companies who don't have a direct sales force, which would be a W-2 directly hired salesperson for that organization. Most of the big orthopedic companies, the DePuy Synthes and the Zimmer Biomets and the Strykers of the world have a sales force that are majority W-2 and only represent those Stryker products. We do represent some different lines from different organizations, different companies, and that's what makes us unique. We're a 1099 independent contractor.
Got it. That's very cool. I talked to quite a few sales reps that have started off as sales reps, worked for W-2 positions, and then went on to start their own distributorships. How did you get into that space?
So I'll make a really long story short. I started out back in the 90s for Synthes when there was no DePuy involved. And so I was a direct employee of Synthes. Made my way from Synthes to Smith & Nephew and to some other organizations, and then went from being a sales representative to holding some mid-level management positions, as well as a RVP position within Smith & Nephew, all within the trauma industry, a trauma segment. And so I really loved the opportunity to sit down with the guys who were in marketing and R&D at different organizations. And I just found, for me, I like the idea of being an independent, owning my own business, my own small business, and representing some really innovative technology companies. And so that's why I decided to make the transition to being a 1099 contractor or representing those companies that needed a sales force in certain areas.
Got it. And, to get into that, you have to have had some pretty solid relationships. Was that your experience? Was it kind of, you saw that, I can do this? Or did you say, I want to do this and I'm just going to figure it out and make it happen?
So it was a little bit of both. I just decided I wanted to do this and I'm going to figure it out. I did have some good relationships. There were some curveballs. I'll be honest with you. There's some curveballs that I didn't expect. I really did a lot of research and made a lot of contacts with people that I know within the industry in order to make the transition. Made the transition, and then I was like, "Oh, that's a curveball, and there's another curveball." And I decided, well, okay, I'm here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. I started in really researching in 2018, implementation phase in 2019, back half of 2019, and then hit in 2020. So right. Made it even more interesting. So that goes right back to you. Well, just got to figure it out.
When did you start your distributorship?
So I did the real start of it. It was 2019.
Okay, so it's pretty, wow, it's pretty recent.
Wow,
that's a big step. So you've been in the industry for years, and you finally decided to go the entrepreneurial route.
Yep, exactly. I've always done some entrepreneurial things on the side, some different things in real estate and things like of that nature. But this foray into medical device was my first entrepreneurial venture.
That is awesome. So talk to us a little about the history. I always ask this, anyone that comes on the show. When did you decide that medical device sales was going to be your thing? Is that something you knew about in college? Did you get into the workforce and then something came up and you found something out? How did it happen?
I have a very interesting story about that. So I got out of college. I knew I wanted to be in sales. I went into the computer world. Back then was when they had computer systems to do a lot of their in-house things in doctors' offices. Went out to Napa Valley one summer and visited some family. And I decided, I came back, you know what? I'm going to quit my job and start a wine bar. So my wife and I started a wine bar. And so I can tell you, it's the hardest work. That's why whenever I go anywhere where a food establishment and those people work the hardest of any people I've ever met. Because I can remember some nights just, it's been it was a 20-hour day. And you kind of look around, you made $52 in tips or something, and you're going, wow, this is hard.
The passion has to be there.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be. And, I guess, or the love of wine or all of the above. So actually had a gentleman who used to come in all the time and to the wine bar, and we used to just talk. And he actually ended up being a district sales manager for Synthes. And that's how it happened. I met and I said, hey, this is my background. I'd really like to look into the medical device space and getting into it. And he said, well, let's talk. And the rest is history.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. So you went on to have this great career. You were a sales rep, you got into sales management, and you rode that out until you finally decided to do your own distributorship. What brought about Ortho Idea? When did you decide to get into that and say, you know what, I'm going to create a podcast?
So that's an interesting question. It really came about when I just kind of I had thought about it in early 2020 and it was January into 2019. I thought, okay, this is the new medium of how we're going to communicate ideas, in the business world. And I was an avid podcast listener. Right. Obviously, March, April, 2020, we know what hit. And so I said, well, I got plenty of time on my hands right now. I'm going to create a podcast. And, it really was, I'm not a guy who says to themselves, I'm going to go create a podcast. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm not a guy who says, I'm the media mogul that I am. And so I just said, hey, I called a bunch of people that I knew and I said, hey, would you be interested? And they're like, well, yeah, I have nothing going on. I'm sitting in my house, can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. And Ortho Idea was born. That's basically how it all happened. And it was always Ortho Idea itself is our platform, our marketing platform, and podcast, video, and print media, and things that we're doing. I just thought that now I'm going to go deeper into Ortho Idea. The thought of it is the medical device world is such a I don't want to say it the wrong way. It's such an elementary way they market things. It hasn't changed since they started. I mean, they're still mailing out pieces of literature to people. It's mind-boggling to me. I always make the joke. I'm like, why don't we just mail out VHS tapes and newspapers? I mean, that's the way we used to do it. So my whole aim and my goal was to change that and kind of put it on its ear. So that's kind of why you'll see a lot of content marketing that we do as an organization on LinkedIn, the podcast, We have something called Ortho Idea Reviews, where we put a funny spin on reviewing medical device products and things of that nature.
Okay. You know what? I love that you said that. I mean, that's something that I've been a big advocate of, is how everything is going towards the digital space, and the importance of anyone involved in anything to create a brand on this digital space, to really let people know who you are before they get to know who you are. And it serves you in all kinds of ways, from doing business to helping your customers, to providing more value to the people that follow you. I mean, it's really, really important. And I've seen that with healthcare, it's kind of the last bastion to catch on, right? It's almost reluctant to want to make that move. Talk to us a little bit about what are some of the significant changes you've seen from before COVID to today that this online branding has helped you create?
So before COVID, I noticed it was beginning. I noticed that on LinkedIn, people were putting some content out there. They were creating brand. There was only a few that were really doing it. And I watched, you being one, by the way. And so I was watching and I'm going, okay, this is the way this is happening. This is how we're going to do it. Obviously every other, consumer product groups and consumer packaged goods and things of that nature, they're all on, whether it be Instagram, on any other social media. That's where social media influencers live, and this is how they're doing it. And then you turn to medical device and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's archaic. It's like there was nothing there. So I saw all this happening and I said, okay, this is time to really engage in this. And there's obviously, if you're on the LinkedIn profile, there's a gentleman by the name of Matthew Scott. We knew each other way back in the day at Smith and Nephew.
Sure. Yep.
And we talked a lot about different things, and I kind of brainstormed, and I decided that I needed to create my online brand, and I needed to create my brand all the way around and what we were doing. And so that's why I decided to do that. And I just made the commitment, that whether it's posting daily on LinkedIn, I made a goal to do it once a day for a year, come out with innovative content every day, if possible. Some may debate if it's innovative or not, but it's content every day, and do the podcast and do these Ortho Idea reviews where I'm out reviewing products and using video and doing that kind of brand. So when COVID did hit, it really jump-started it all. And now I notice there's several people who are migrating that way. But, I heard an interesting statistic the other day that on LinkedIn, 98% of the people who are on LinkedIn don't post any content. They don't do anything. They just kind of lurk, or they post a resume, or I don't know what they do. But so it's interesting that still to this day, we just have such a large group of people who are not embracing creating a brand. And it's with COVID, I think it even more has accelerated it. It is happening.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is happening. Now, we work with a few individuals that, they want to get themselves out there. They want to be seen, but all they know is to post marketing material for maybe the company they work for, or to just kind of reshare something that they've seen, and they don't really understand the concept behind original content. Now, we're not going to get into how to make original content right here in this episode, but just talk to us a little bit about what value have you seen from having more original content from your perspective, someone that decided to get on this platform, commit to doing it for a year. What value have you seen by giving people that personal touch?
So it really came to light when we were able to go to our first conference, and it was out in Las Vegas. And I walked in the door and I introduced myself to people that I had never met before. And they go, "Oh man, you're the podcast guy." I got that 5 or 6 times, and I was like, well, I guess I'm the podcast guy now. It was really interesting. And then another guy came up to me, and another gentleman, and he said, "Hey man, I saw you throw that frame off that rock, and that was so cool that you did that." And I'm going, what is he talking about? And I'm like, oh, that's right. I took an Orthofix frame and I threw it down a mountain in Maine, and he had said it like I was something at a rock or something, but I couldn't figure out but I realized that this was within a matter of hours. I had that many people come up and talk to me, and I went, okay, this is it. This is exactly why we're doing this. And I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but I was like, okay, now this is, this is how people are communicating. People are consuming content. Even if you don't think that people are consuming content, even if you're somebody you don't think you are, but you jump on LinkedIn and you roll by a video and you go, that's interesting. You're consuming content.
Right. No, that's good. I like to think about where this is all headed and what's ultimately going to happen. We don't know the future. We don't have crystal balls, but I would love to hear your best guess. Where do you think we're going in the next 2 to 3 years with med tech sales specifically, and utilizing LinkedIn, becoming content creators, putting ourselves out there? Where do you think this is all headed?
I think it's going to become an integral part of the sales process. I believe that this is going to become, instead of spending the time of going and knocking on doors, this is the virtual knocking on doors. And I think that your time is going to be so much better spent in creating positive activities, whereas before our world was a lot of, let's throw it up against a wall and hope it sticks, and knocking on doors. And I'm not saying the personal touch or the personal face-to-face meetings are going to go away, because they're not. Actually, I think they're going to become even more important, because they're going to recognize you because of your brand and what you're doing, and they're going to want to meet you. The difference is they're not going to have this face guard up about, I don't really know this guy. I don't know this lady. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Level of trust. Yep. Exactly. There's going to be a level of trust. That's what this does. It creates a level of trust.
It does. And that's why people buy from who they trust.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going. So in my opinion, like you said, we don't know 2 or 3 years from now, who knows? We don't have a crystal ball, but if it follows the same trajectory, that's what's going to happen, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. One thing that I've seen too, that's really picking up are the customers. The customers, when it comes to medical sales, they're realizing the value of branding themselves. I mean, you're seeing surgeons left and right coming up and just really becoming thought leaders. They were already thought leaders, but they're making it a point to become thought leaders on this platform. Again, where do you see that going? Do you see that picking up and just becoming the standard, or do you see it kind of still being fringe and maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't? Where do you see it happening?
I believe it's going to become the standard for those independent surgeons and independent physicians that are out there. And I say independent, even in hospital setting, even in the hospital system, they're hospital employees. The way to differentiate yourself, and again, build trust, there no longer are the days, and doctors can tell you this more than anybody, that somebody just decides, what, that says Dr. Smith on the door, I hope they can help me, I'll walk in the door. Right. They're going to go find out, and they're going to learn. And if you can see, if you can, Dr. Sigmund, Scott Sigmund out of Massachusetts, it's fantastic. His hashtag is the Fro. If you watch his content, the things that he's doing, my gosh, how can you not trust that guy? I mean, he's so, I guarantee patients go out there and look for somebody who can, do some kind of shoulder procedure, and they go, oh, there's Scott Sigmund. Yeah, I saw him. When I went and put his name in LinkedIn, there he was. Right. Walking on a beach, with his hair flowing or whatever. But anyway, shout out to Scott Sigmund there. But so he, I think that's going to become the norm. And there are several surgeons who are starting to do that.
Excellent. So now let's get back to you, Eric. You have this distributorship. You created the Ortho Idea podcast. You've created a brand for yourself. You're involved in other projects where you're doing, a lot of the things that I'm doing, where you're showing people how to get into this industry, how to be better within your role. What do you want for the future? If you can, project 10 years, what would you like to be able to say you've attempted to accomplish? We'll put it that way.
Excellent question. So one of the other projects that we just started working on is the Medical Sales RX platform, which is a platform that allows for those who want to get into medical device sales, who are in medical device sales, to learn more or gain more knowledge, and obviously find more educational resources. And I'm doing this project with Matthew Scott, and it's very rewarding to me, because there just isn't a platform out there where somebody can go and access in any, whether it be vertical within medical sales, or whether that's going to be anything within the medical device sales space. There isn't a platform out there. So we decided to create that. And we are doing that. We're getting some of the most talented course creators around to come on the platform. And I think hopefully that's where our legacy will be, that we were able to create a platform like that and have so many individuals who will be able to learn online wherever they are, anytime, any place, anywhere, not drop everything and go to a 2-month course somewhere away where you're there. And again, it's, kind of using COVID as always the catalyst for all these things, but right. It really taught all of us that back in the day, people were never going to say, you know what, I'm going to work from home 3 out of 5 days a week. And people would be like, no, you're not. No way. No. Well, right. Yeah, they are. Here we are. There we are. And, right. And ironically, it's working. These individuals who they thought were like, they wouldn't have the work productivity.
They're working better. They're working better.
It's even better. And so that's where I just said, you know what, we can have the ability to have access some of the top creators, content creators, and course creators in our device space who have done it. They walked the walk, they talked the talk. Yeah. Now people can go and learn from those people. So that's where a lot of excitement is right now.
I love it. That is awesome. Eric, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Our listeners, people that want to get in, people that are in, and people that are leading the way. Anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah. What I would like to share is, if you guys are, anybody listening to this podcast, I was always one of those people who were, I love the company that I work for, and I always gave my all in that company, and you should always do that. But no, part of that moving forward is creating your own brand, and moving forward is having the brand recognition, and it's not the name of the company you're working for, it's you. And that's what the focus should be for you. If you want to, accelerate your career within the organizations you work in, you can follow several people on LinkedIn who work for big organizations who are building a brand, their own personal brand. But that's what people are going to use. If you want to move to different companies, create a side hustle, that's what I believe the number one thing should be if you want to have something to utilize for your future.
Couldn't have said it better. Agree 500%. Eric, thank you for being on the show today. This was an excellent time with you, and we'll be keeping tabs on you, and we look forward to seeing more of your content.
Thank you, Samuel. I appreciate it. I love everything you're doing as well. And again, thanks for the opportunity to be on.
And that was Eric Anderson, founder of Ortho Idea and co-founder of Medical Sales RX. Make sure you check him out on LinkedIn and take a look at some of those valuable resources for medical sales professionals. So maybe you're listening to this episode and you're someone that wants to get into medical sales, but you're not quite sure where you want to be. Do you want to be in pharmaceutical sales? Do you want to be a medical device sales rep? Do you want to be a capital equipment sales rep? Or maybe a testing, a diagnostic sales rep? You're really unclear, and you're not even sure how to even start looking. Stop wondering. Stop spinning. Go to evolveyoursuccess.com. Select Attain Medical Sales Role. Fill out our application and have a conversation with us, and let us help you find the right fit for you within this industry and get you into the position you were destined to be in. And if you're someone that's in the medical sales field already, maybe you're a medical device sales rep and you've been thrown into a territory. You love the company, you love the products, you love the people you work with, but you don't really feel you have the training to get things in order. You're not sure how to even set up your territory and put together that business plan that's going to get you the results you're hoping to achieve by the end of the quarter, let alone the end of the year. Why wonder? Why sit staying up late nights trying to make things work that you really don't even know how to make work? Instead, visit evolveyoursuccess.com, select Improve Sales Performance, and take a look at our medical sales training program. Fill out the application, submit it, and have a conversation with us, and let us help you get that territory to a high-performing territory, be much more impactful in your position, get you to Winner's Circle, President's Club, that promotion you've been eyeing, whatever it is you're looking for to improve your progress in your space and accelerate through your career. Let us help you make it happen. Again, visit Evolve Your Success and select Improve Sales Performance. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that have innovation, resources, different ways to be more impactful in your territory, to be more impactful with your providers, and ultimately help your customers do more for patients. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.